Okay. So, good afternoon, everybody, and last session of CII's Building Warehouse Competitiveness for 2021. Me and my esteemed panelists have the ominous task to engage on a lazy summer afternoon. After having heard so many good speakers with so many views, I think you've all had a lot of takeaways. But sometimes these conferences remind me of a cricket match, and it's up to the tail enders to carry the innings. So I do hope that we can make it interesting and exciting and keep all of you engaged for this session. And we certainly look forward to your participation because it will be an interactive session and we'll have sufficient time to take questions and answers. So without much ado, let me introduce myself. My name is Manu Bhalla, and I'm the Director and Global Head for Contract Logistics and Supply Chain for Dubai-based Indian MNC called Freight Systems. And we operate in 20 countries. We provide end-to-end supply chain solutions. I am also a member of the CII National Logistics Committee and also serve on the board of the Chamber of Visionary Supply Chain Leaders, CVSCL. So let me just request each of our panel members to kindly introduce themselves. So over to you, Pramodji. You're muted, Pramod.
Thank you, Manu. My name is Pramod Sant, and I am handling import-export for Siemens Limited and group companies in India, Bangladesh, and Sri Lanka. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Ashwin, over to you.
Thanks, Manuji. Hi, everyone. I'm Ashwin Dravid. I represent Armstrong Machine Builders, and we are India's largest intralogistic automation solutions providers. And it's been a great honor to be part of this session. Look forward for interacting with you all. Thanks.
Thank you, Ashwin. Pradeep.
Hi, I'm Pradeep Purohit. I'm Senior Vice President Supply Chain with Star Cement Limited. And I'm having 30 years of experience in field of supply chain. In addition, I also take interest in various industry bodies, and currently I'm the Vice Chair of North Bengal, CII North Bengal Zonal Council. Besides that, I am also in the National Committee of CII for skill development and livelihood building. I wish I'm able to add some value to this session of this conference.
Thanks. Thank you, Pradeep. Welcome. Rahul, over to you.
Hello, I'm Rahul. I'm the Pro Vice Chancellor at Washington University, Hyderabad. I'm a bit of an unusual guest here since I don't come directly from the hardcore operations / supply chain industry. However, I'm more specialized into the automation side on the multi-channel selling and optimization of the supply chain. So, well, I hope I can provide some valuable inputs to all. Thank you.
Great. So, we have a very interesting topic today, which is partnership to achieve higher productivity levels. And partnership actually involves all stakeholders in the entire supply chain logistics space. So, one of the very important aspects today about supply chain productivity levels is the role of original equipment manufacturers and technology service providers in this space. So I would request Ashwin to give us his views on this subject. Over to you, Ashwin, please. Can you hear me, Ashwin?
Yeah,
Ashwin, can I be heard?
Yes. Am I audible now?
Yeah, please go ahead.
All right. So thanks, Manuji, for giving me the opportunity to bring in the perspective from OEM side. So I think it's been long that we have heard standards and going on to the standards for the industry, so that the overall ecosystem grows and everybody, all the stakeholders within the supply chain are benefited. But I thought today let me bring a different perspective. I think let's speak about the KPIs that currently are tracked and how KPIs have changed over the time. maybe because of the business that we are looking at, the kind of situations that we are forced into. I think today we are looking at different KPIs for, at least, automated warehouse or warehouse. Or maybe it is starting from receiving accuracy, picking accuracies. Order lead time has become very, very critical, very, very important KPI. Of course, there are, KPIs like inventory turnaround, inventory carrying costs for years together. But I think rate of return, back order rates, these are some of the newer, KPIs that have emerged. And keeping all of these recent important KPIs in mind, I think first step for all of us is to understand where do we stand today. Each one of us need to understand where do we stand and hold mirror to our own selves. Where do we stand on these parameters and what can be done to automate? And the next step is perhaps, going on to the standardization. It's going to go parallel. So for example, from an OEM standpoint, I think we are looking at common practices that must be adopted across the OEMs. Maybe it is got to do with the programming, data exchanges, interoperability of the equipment, because today, being a logistics service provider, you may have different OEMs supplying different equipment to you. At the end of the day, we have to put them together and we have to ensure that, the final result is delivered. So I think that becomes very vital and very critical, so that, we are talking to each other, we are on common practices, common platforms, and then delivering the results. Barcode standardization, I think, it's been spoken umpteen number of times, but yet we are not where we ideally want it to be from an industry standpoint. We still have different grades, different versions of barcodes deployed by different people, and it gets a little more trickier. It adds to the cost finally, because that starts getting more and more critical. So it adds to the cost. It also puts the efficiency down if you have a variety of codes flowing on the same system. This is one example where we are seeking greater standardization, and we are, talking to different stakeholders for what can be done. I think fairly simple example recently, I think, even today morning this was discussed. Even our dock needs to be standardized. Today, most cases our docks are also not standardized from a material handling standpoint. And then we are deploying different systems to, enable our people to receive or, load trucks. I think from that point, I think even standardization is required on the building side. So overall, we feel as a OEM, we are contributing to some of those things which I spoke of, but I think we also expect other stakeholders to work on something like, dock standardization or some common safety, basic parameters for safety of MHEs, because everybody today is looking at safety as a key parameter. And it's time that we must have a common safety guideline available across. And, we must ensure all our people are safe and, our machines are really working in conjunction with our people. And all of this, if you put together, I think it leads to the productivity. If we really see, if we are able to, sorry, you're saying something, Manu?
No, go. Please go ahead. Please go ahead, Ashwin. Yeah.
So, I mean, just an example, there was a study carried out in USA that they were talking about 11% of the forklift, numbers, they encounter accidents once in a year. And the compensations could be like, 150,000 to 200,000 USD. So that's the kind of money is then getting spent onto these compensations. But then we must work on the other side, which is where I was talking about bringing common standards across industry for MHEs. After speaking to different stakeholders, I think it's a key and very vital area. Thanks.
Thank you, Ashwin. Thank you. So now I'll ask Pradeep ji from a user perspective, because he represents Star Cement. So Pradeep ji, can you share, your views on this interesting topic?
I'll start with the status that we are having as far as I'll focus myself towards the bulk and the bagged consignments where actually we need a lot of development. as far as mechanization or automation is concerned. And in that, if we can see the entire value chain in the bulk and bagged cargo and warehousing needs, there is a big change which is required. We are way behind in comparison to the other commodities as far as mechanization and automation is concerned, and there is a big change needs to be taken into this, and handling plays a big role, a vital role in the entire value chain. So mechanization in big bulk, like in minerals or coal or all these minerals, have certainly taken place, and a lot of mechanized handling is taking up. But if we go to the bagged cargoes, like especially cement or fertilizer or salt or food grain, which are still being handled absolutely manually, and they're being carried on head from a truck to the warehouse, and from warehouse to the truck. They've been loaded by individual laborers, and that is something where a lot of mechanization and automation can take place and needs to be done at this point of time. Besides this, yes, mechanization, although have taken place in, or the MHEs are there to handle these bulk materials, whether minerals or other bulk materials are concerned, but a lot of automation in that needs to be introduced, which is available. But there are some equipment manufacturers which are giving these facilities, whether the control or whether taking out the MIS of all the number of hours worked, or the efficiency that the equipment has given, or the number of hours the machine was running but not active. So these informations which number of equipment suppliers have started giving into their standard equipments, but some of them are not giving. So such standardization is certainly needed. But the main development that can take place, or the main gap where a lot of mechanization and automation is still to happen, is the bagged consignments of whether food grain or fertilizer or cement and all this. Now, why so? Why this has not happened while other things have been getting automated and mechanized? The main reason I see, or in my opinion, is availability of cheap labor, which was available to us. And the other main reason is the difficulty of designing such equipments which are one equipment suits many applications, because you see at one warehouse there are multiple type of bagged cargoes which are supposed to be handled, and there's a problem in designing one equipment suitable to multiple such handling requirements. So that is something which is becoming which was the main reason why this development have not taken place. But now the situation is that the manpower cost has gone up and will be going up at a much faster pace than than what it has taken up thus far. And with this, the need of mechanized handling of this bulk cargo in bags and bulk will be much more needed, and will be compulsory for each company and the warehousing industry to come forward and accept. Now, till now, most of the handling of warehousing was in the unorganized sector. The unorganized sector consists of the biggest portion of this warehousing needs of bulk material. With the organized sector coming in, yes, the mechanization will certainly take place, because unorganized sector does not take interest in investing into capex. So with organized sector coming in, certainly the mechanization will take place and the automation will take place. And institutionalization, which is taking a forefront now, will be the next big thing which will come in, and which is going to make sure that automation and mechanization is taking a forefront. And for that, I would see that, or I would like to see that the equipment manufacturers are coming forward with newer designs and equipments which can handle multiple type of bags. If that can be designed, and if we can implement some showcases, like if we can take up with big cement companies which are having pan-India presence, like whether I was hearing to Mr. Rajiv Mehta from Ambuja in the earlier session. So if such companies can, or we are ready to come forward, and if we can have some showcasing examples of handling such cargo by mechanization and implementing such mechanization in some of the warehouses, and such showcases can then be replicated in the other industry. That will bring in a lot of change into this. So that's how I put it.
Great, thank you, Pradeep. I think a lot of insights there, and I think platforms like CII bring a lot of opportunity for sharing of best practices, and I think we have these clusters where we can interact and learn from each other. So thanks for your insights, and over to you, Rahul, for some of your views on this subject.
All right, thank you so much, Manu. I don't want to be the party pooper here, but we are all talking about automation. I've been dealing with automation for several years now. Automation is a very open-ended topic. Unfortunately, it has been overhyped over the last 10 years. I've been interacting, especially in Europe. I am originally from Spain, so considering that, I'm interacting with most of the Northern European as well as Nordic and Western European companies based out of there. Schneider, for example, Novo Nordisk as well, even Inditex, Sara actual manufacturer. So I have seen the supply chain, and the problem is that automation is not supposed to be implemented to satisfy the company, but to satisfy the rising expectations of the consumers, of the customers, in order to fulfill the demand that is overcoming. For example, Amazon, or even in India, Flipkart as well, because it's happening at a very fast rate. This is leading towards that automation. The problem is that automation cannot be the one solution that fits all. It's not going to solve the problem automatically, just like the implementation of AI algorithms or quantum mechanics is going to solve any advancement. There cannot be a replacement. There has to be a complementation. Now, it is tough to implement it in supply chain because supply chain data to enter into the algorithm, it's complex. It's not clean data. Hence, those variables which are human-induced or variables in the context of a supply chain, depending on the industry, may originate inconveniences. That is why multiple companies are not able to improve their efficiency, or even their inventory management also is not improving at a very fast rate. And in quality controls talking about. Consequently, there is going to be a disconnect. Now, that disconnect can be merged by setting common standards. The problem with the common standards is that they are no longer common. The companies may demand X and the providers may demand Y, and the merge of it through algorithmic approach may not be satisfying enough. Been working on supply chain optimization for a while, and I can tell you it is extremely complicated business because optimizing something which has lots of variables into it, applied to the actual physical supply chain, creates n number of bottlenecks. So cleaning that will become one of the largest problems in the 21st century, ultimately. The moment that has been solved, you can imagine the kind of productivity increment as well as the profitability for companies. So, well, it's a long journey. It's not going to be overnight. And in any country, not just in India, anywhere else. It's going to take multiple years, and I will even say decades for that matter, because AI, machine learning, quantum is still years to go. Though it might look like it's not, this is actually years to go in practice. So I believe from my end, this is all the insights I can provide so far.
Thank you, Rahul. That was a reality check for all of us who have been talking a lot about automation, and it reminds me of a word I heard many years ago called GIGO, which basically is, garbage in and garbage out. So if we are not having the right data and the algorithms are not designed based on correct data, we can't have the right outcomes expected. So thank you, and that's a great learning for all of us. I'll now request Pramodji to talk to us a little bit about his experiences in this space.
Yeah. Thank you, Manu. I'm audible?
Yes, sir, absolutely.
Yeah. So we have talked about really customer expectation, automation, OEM manufacturers, everybody's view. I'm bringing a topic which is important and which will really make a difference is the environment, sustainability, safety, clean energy, which is related with a warehousing. Because today many people will think that I am trying to do something in this area means I am adding a cost, and maybe my customer may not give me returns on this if I do some investment on sustainability or on to clean energy or safety areas, but which is not true. I think this will go a long way and people will really respect that. If you look at today, when we talk about sustainability or a clean energy, lot many savings which can be brought to bring the warehouse competitiveness. If you take a two example, one is a lighting and another is a ventilation and air conditioning. If you take these two area which constitute a very high cost for the energy, and if you use it properly and now if you look at in each area of this, the OEM manufacturer and the automation plays a very vital role. Maybe one is the natural ventilation, natural air, lightning or a natural ventilation, but use of LED or sensors which get open, which lights comes when you go to that area, all that things will play a really vital role. And a lot of important thing, really properly designing your warehouse with the proper thermal zones, which require what type. And let's say if you are having some pharma or you are having some FMCG goods, then how you will manage this properly will really help into competitiveness. And this point also will get important with collaboration. You mentioned about collaboration. See, each of this area is a very specialized area. There may be expert into lightning, like handling lightning, or somebody may be expert into handling the other areas. Another point is the solar energy, which is becoming a clean energy and a really cheapest area. Warehouses have got a really good roofs and which will save a lot of money. At the same time, the rain harvesting. Every warehouse requires a lot of water. If you are able to do a rain harvesting, you are able to collect the proper water, then at least it can be used for the toilets or it can be used for your vehicle cleanings or some area cleanings. I think that is going to give you a very competitiveness. And this will not only create a good impression about your warehouse or you with your customers and overall, which will really help. Look at what warehouse is also having. Warehouse is having a lot of packing material, which is either cardboard, which could be wood, which could be metal scrap. And how you are going to handle that, how you are going to focus on the recycling of this is a very critical item. How you will save into each area, which will reduce the carbon footprint and which will help for environment is going to make a really difference when you talk about the warehouse. So ISO 14001 really gives that, but every warehouse has got a great opportunity to invent what is suitable for them and what is suitable for their customer. There is not a really rocket science that you follow this rule, but you will be able to do it based on your expertise, along with collaboration with your customers. This is very important. Another point is safety. See, somehow safety is neglected in India to a great extent. We are we are definitely not so concerned, and which is always a worrying point when you deal with any international company. So the safety of equipment, safety of electricity, how your electric systems are designed in warehouse, how are they, how you are handling the fire alarm system, how you are handling all these things is a very important, and which will give you added advantage, which will definitely reduce your insurance premium, which will reduce many other costs. So similarly, in safety, you have a forklift, you are moving items, how you will prevent the falls, what are safety precautions which you will give for your employee and your visitors is a very critical part which needs to be looked into. So another important is the training of people. You will look at warehouses when they are having handling the multiple customers. You will have somewhere the pharmaceutical, somewhere FMCG, somewhere it will electronics item, or somewhere you are having a chemicals also. So the handling of the hazardous cargo, handling of chemicals, it requires a lot of skills. And I think your warehouse cannot be only competitive with equipments or automation. It will which will give you a much more competitiveness. I think this is a very important point. While looking into any aspect of warehousing, I think we should give a lot of focus, and every customer should work on this together with a warehouse service provider, together with OEM suppliers, which will make this really success. So I think these are my few initial comment. Manu, back to you.
Thank you, Pramodji. You covered a big spectrum and very important aspects of sustainability, safety, and in fact, sustainability is becoming more and more important in today's context. And with right from electric vehicles to green buildings. In fact, we as Freight Systems are building a huge facility here in Gurgaon, which is going to be gold certified, both by EDGE as well as by International Green Building Council. So I think now it's good to know that the logistics service providers like ourselves are also participating in this effort towards sustainability and green buildings. But it's also important, like you said, sir, that customers, basically we are serving the customers and the clients who are going to be who we serve. So if they are also aligned, and actually that's where the partnership of all the stakeholders come in, because it's quite a closed ecosystem. And we are basically serving on one side the manufacturers like yourself and let's say Star and so many others, and on the other side the end consumer, right, which Rahul said that automation is supposed to meet the customer demand. So and in between are the service providers. So it has to be a partnership right through the ecosystem to be able to to make it a closed environment, and all of us need to elevate our sustainability plans and execute them. Just don't leave it as plans, and you actually need to talk. So we'll come back to more on that. One topic which was touched upon a little bit by a few of my panelists today and some of the speakers earlier was about standardization. So there are many standards already around, let's say, when it comes to warehousing and warehousing design, because we are talking about building warehouse competitiveness, right? So there are a huge number of standards, under the National Building Code, and then you have ISO, which Pramod also referred to. Then there's Bureau of Standards, and so there are many, and plus of course international standards like DIN and ASTM, and so. But the one good initiative with which the Department of Logistics under the Ministry of Commerce has taken up, is an initiative to actually make to bring all these standards together, and they are putting together a draft guidelines for standardization of warehousing. So I think along with some of my other colleagues from the CII National Committee, myself and like Vicky and so many others, we have all industry has sort of partnered the government and given our inputs from a user perspective as well as from a service provider perspective. And the government is doing a great job in compiling all this information. Initially, I think it was thought to be part of the new logistics policy, but this is now being kept separately as a guideline for standardization, because there are so many aspects of logistics and warehousing. Not everything can be captured. But since I have been working closely, these documents are available with me. If anybody has any interest, without going into more details about what kind of standardization, it's available. We can reach out to CII or we can reach out to me. So these standards cover warehousing, palletization, racking, material handling equipment, transportation, packing, as well as handling of dangerous goods. So I'm glad to say that in the last, I would say, 18 months, we have all as an industry made quite a lot of progress towards arriving at a generally accepted standard for warehousing and logistics in India. Right. So, and for that, I think we have to thank the government for the initiative and their leadership in this subject. So now I will just, change the tracks a little bit. Okay. So, we spoke a little bit about the KPIs, and the productivity improvement, Ashwin, from automation, right? So can you cite some examples specifically where, because we always have a challenge that there has to be a return on investment. We equate automation and mechanization with high cost, high capex cost. But then if we are able to have a better productivity, better throughput, like Rahul said, we are able to have, improve our TAT and achieve our, customer expectations or exceed them. So in a way, the ROI comes back. Yeah. So would you like to share your thoughts on that? Because, CapEx, everybody in today's environment is shy of new CapEx expenditure.
So thanks, Manu. I think it's a very interesting question. So, because often we talk about ROI, often we talk about CapEx, and we straight away jump to the manpower cost. I mean, that's the most common practice that we have, all of us have encountered. First thing that we speak about is, how many headcount am I going to reduce, and what's my cost per headcount, and that's the way we have been looking at traditionally the ROI. So let me cite an example. If we really look at the automatic storage and retrieval system, which could be perhaps most capital intensive, and if we try to plot the same system on the similar KPI that I spoke earlier, and if we try to see how it looks like, I think that will make a lot of sense. For example, if we take automatic storage and retrieval system, first thing that we need to understand the cost of space. And by going vertical, how efficiently am I using space? Am I creating space? Am I, how much is my density of storage per square meter per square feet? I think that's a measure that one can look at. And if that compared with the conventional one, we need to value that space as a, resource, and which costs all of us some money. I think that's the first and foremost. The second piece is, as I said, the order lead time, which becomes very, very imperative these days as we are going for all the logistics service providers, that people will talk about order lead time, how fast we are servicing to the market. So I think with the automated system and with 24/7 running, it's not human dependent. It is purely machines are running. You don't need anybody to run that practically. But having said that, it could be manless, and you're 24/7 actually running, and therefore your efficiencies are going to be very higher. Your errors are going to be very, very minimal. When it comes to, because your order lead time is a function of your inaccurate or maybe errors in dispatches also. So it's very important. These two aspects, if you see, they are very, very critical for your ROI calculation, so to say, if that makes sense. And then we can always look at workforce or labor as a third or fourth piece, where we are looking at improving their efficiencies, because obviously the automated systems are giving them fairly they're designed for ergonomics, they're designed for less fatigue, you'll have less bending, so obviously their efficiencies will go up. I'm not saying that number will come down, but their efficiency will also go up. And perhaps the same workforce can be redeployed into some other areas where it is more meaningful, more productive than just doing non-value-added activity, like just moving a material from one place to the other place. I think these are 2 or 3 very, very critical parameters if we look at and try to plot where we are today, where we want to go, and what is the cost of getting my return on investment. So if we really do that, I think I'm sure you will see that people will go forward and take these risks, look at these opportunities to improve their efficiencies and be more cost competitive, be very, very quick and agile to the consumer needs, and therefore these external factors also play a vital role in while calculating the ROI. One of the things that that came to my mind while Pradeep did speak about the standardization, why OEMs also look at standardization, because we feel there's a scale. If it's standardized, we should be able to scale up and we should be able to bring the price down. If it's bespoke, if it's every time customized, obviously, the prices are prohibitive, and then it makes more difficult for you to invest and, get an ROI on that. So therefore, I think the standardization, I'm just trying to connect it with it. If we are trying to develop an ecosystem which is following certain standards, I think it will help us in many ways to control our costs, be more competitive, create more opportunities for all of us to grow and achieve our aims. Over to you.
Excellent. Thank you, Ashwin. So thanks. It was a very interesting perspective, and I have some follow-up questions, but we'll save it for later. So Pramod, over to you. So would you like to share with us, a little bit, maybe an experience about collaboration with the stakeholders in your supply chain? Anything that you would, like to talk about in specific?
Yeah. So Manu, I will take it from where the Ashwin also mentioned that when you are taking some equipment, there is an investment and capex, and we talked about return on investment. So it's not a new example. It is a couple of years back when we established our warehouses. What we did is that for our specific need, we were requiring some specific investment by the warehouse service provider. We require a very special type of racks. We require special type of handling equipment, which require an investment. So how we do that? For example, he has given us the estimate that yes, we will require so much investment. This is the cost of investment. This is how it will come. So we internally, we have one finance company, Siemens Financial Corporation. So we tied up with them. And we said, okay, if you are going to consider this finance cost, I am going to help you. You will not require any other details because you are providing to Siemens. We will work together and they finance my logistics service provider, warehouse provider. They got benefit, we got benefit, everybody is happy. So this is one of the really good example of collaboration, which you will see, which helps everybody. Then it's earlier, now we have a cold storage everywhere and we will talk because of vaccines, so much temperature control. But this was not a situation in 2012 when we were running for our 2 to 8 degrees, minus 15 degrees temperature control warehouse. And we established one in Patodi Road, which was emerging that time as a warehouse. So the service provider faced a problem that he was not able to maintain the temperature. Then we have to work with the original equipment manufacturer, Blue Star. Really, they also have to spend a lot of time to do that. And then we finally together, we succeeded in achieving the reliability, creditability, so that we don't have any risk of really any temperature variations. But it is not that we don't believe that, okay, we pass on this problem to warehouse service provider, let him handle this thing. If you don't maintain temperature, I will deduct his money. No, we went ahead, we made a collaboration. We really went up to that manufacturer and said, boss, you have to set it. You please give us your top resources. And we did that. So you look at the areas in which you can do a collaboration, all the possible. And also Ashwin mentioned about the docking stations. See, you are having X type of a service provider coming to you for pickup every day, delivering this thing. And each one is having a lot of still differentiation. So if you are able to align with that, okay, this type of, I am going to align a docking station for you, which will help you or which will reduce your vehicle turnaround time, then he is happy. Then probably what happens is that this service provider who is coming to my pickup, he knows that his vehicle will be released in 20 minutes. Instead of, we'll get a priority on that. So lot much things can be done, or I am able to tell him, okay, you always come at 9 o'clock. I will keep this docking station free for you, and which is made suitable to you. He will be most happy, and I will get a good service. So you think of the collaboration areas. I think there are ample of chances where you can achieve the saving, and it will be win-win. You very clearly mentioned, I am expecting sustainability customer, but I should pay for that. But I'm quite sure with each example, if you work together, everybody will gain. I'm quite sure. I hope I answered you, Manu. Back to you.
Yes, absolutely. In fact, that's a sterling example, Pramodji, which Siemens had in terms of collaboration. And from the service perspective side, we always, look for clients like yourself who actually walk the talk when it comes to collaboration, because we talked in the earlier sessions about build to suit and all. So when we go to build to suit, basically it's referring to, 4 walls and a roof. It's not talking about intra warehouse, because build to suit for intra warehouse is a completely cup of tea, which can only be executed if the end user or the customer engages with, either the service provider or the builder, so that it is a true partnership, right? And there is a common objective. Unfortunately, large companies, many of them even today in India, whether they are asking for green certified buildings and this and that, but when you talk about collaborative information, you see, it comes back to pricing. Everything comes back, so, okay, in the earlier sessions, there was a lot of references to go downs, but I think unfortunately, many clients are still in that era where they would like to have a world-class building, which is, green certified and sustainable and doing everything that is most modern, ISO processes to be followed, safety, security, everything, skilled manpower. But pricing has to be compared with, let's say what they were having in their previous experience, maybe through some go down play. So there's a huge mismatch in that. And, like I mentioned earlier, we are building this huge facility, and during the construction time, I think people know steel prices, have shot up by more than 50% in a, if you take the last 8 months period. And as a result, when you're talking about huge investment, like 10, $15 million, and then you have a cost escalation of 30%, obviously the viability comes into question if you do not have like-minded partners who we are going to serve, because if automatically your cost of construction is going up by 25 to 30%, steel, cement, manpower, all those things have gone up suddenly due to this COVID and other situations. So it becomes very, very difficult, so modernization, automation, all these things, ultimately it has to be viable, and that's the way it can be sustainable. So you have to be not only sustainable, in terms of environment, you have to be economically sustainable also. The project has to be economically sustainable. So with that, I will, hand over.
So Manu, just
Rahul
one small little point here.
Sure.
While we're talking about standardization, I think your contract writing also needs a standardization in that case.
Yeah, absolutely.
The terms and conditions, I think it's a very vital piece there.
So Ashwin, even standardization of contracts, see, ultimately you say that, I will have plus minus 5% variation built into the contract, which is fair. But when there is a 30% escalation or 40% escalation, the contractor simply says, listen, I'm going to walk away. So either, you have to find a solution in those situations, right? We also know the reality that if his input price, that is the cost of pure purchase steel, which is 80% of, let's say, a PV building, if that price has gone up by 40% of steel, raw steel, so he's simply saying, okay, if you want me to continue, I would like to continue, but these are the world prices. You buy the steel and give it to me. And it's a phenomenon not only in India, it's happening globally. So steel prices worldwide. In fact, right now, Indian steel prices are lower than world prices, and that's why steel manufacturers are exporting, because it's they are having better yield in the international market, which is again creating shortages for us. So anyway, I think that's we can take that offline. I'll hand it over to Rahul. Over to you, Rahul, for your inputs. Yeah.
My inputs here will be extremely limited, since obviously I lack the experience hands-on in the field, in particular, like the fellow panelists will have it. But I will cycle back just to the point on sustainability. It's a very critical area which I've been seeing in the supply chains worldwide, especially in the fashion industry, as well as the steel dimension, steel manufacturers also. I don't want to cycle back to automation, to be honest, because then it will be like repeating the same story once again. So it will be a bit pointless from my end to do that. However, there is a project which we are working on, especially with my colleagues. I'm not sure how interesting you may find it. It's a bit complex in terms of correlation of optimization and sustainability using algorithmic approaches. So it's still in progress, but if it succeeds, and once we test it in the real market, and obviously, if you're interested to implement it in your company on trial basis, feel free to reach out to me. We can take a look at how it will perform. But we are hopeful that it will actually reduce wastage and ensure optimization as well as quality controls. And delivery time should be reduced by not less than 45%. That is the estimation. So, well, once it's ready in a prototyping stage, we'll surely touch base with each of you. And if you would like to, of course, test it and see how it works. We are doing this completely pro bono, by the way. There's no any financial involvement on this. We are into academics, so that is, profitability is not something we are looking at too much. We are looking mainly at the implementation stage and seeing whether it works or not. So, well, Pramod already mentioned the sustainability part. So that is something I especially wanted to stretch upon. Other than that, to be frank, any other inputs I can provide you with will not be meaningful in any possible way. So I believe the next panelist will be a better combination for this.
Yeah, thank you, Rahul. So that itself is a partnership, and cooperation, let's say, between academia and business and industry. If we can have, some of, let's say, some of your learnings and some of the solutions that you have provided, I think it will be a great contribution to the industry, whether it's a user industry or the service provider industry or the MHE industry. So this is another form of our cooperation, collaboration between various stakeholders of the supply chain. So Pradeep ji, I was just wanted to come back to you and talk a little bit. You mentioned about special material handling equipment for bagging, etc. So can you tell us a little bit about maybe a particular case where some manufacturer came forward and you partnered with them and you were able to get a delightful outcome?
As far as bagged handling is concerned, we have had some trials done at our own end. We have tried to design something, we have acted upon it, but yes, we have not found a beautiful solution which suits everything. But what I would like to put across is that yes, we have worked upon automation and I fully support what Rahul said a little earlier, that there cannot be an automation solution which suits every situation and every organization and everywhere else. So certainly, but we do have a lot of scope in developing at least some modules or modules which are suitable to a particular situation, and they can be plugged into a particular situation. So for automation, yes, we do have number of areas where automation can take place, whether it is access control system or the weighing management system or the security management system or the turnaround time management systems. So for each of these, if we can design some modules, and if those modules are standardized and those standardized modules are available to the warehousing industry in particular, it'll be making it much more easier for the industry to absorb, because as much of customization, higher the cost. Higher the customization, higher the cost, as we all accept it. So with that, if standardization takes place and if some standard modules are available on these things, certainly industry will be able to absorb this technology much easier. Besides this automation part, yes, we at Star Cement have started up in a big way as far as automation is concerned in the entire value chain of handling in the plants, as well as all the warehouses, where the entire network of plants, various plants and the warehouses are being linked and are being put onto one web, and the turnaround time of each vehicle or each consignment is being will be tracked, and it is under implementation, in which as Aswin was earlier saying, we had faced similar situation while we were taking up the project, that as soon as we took up the project, it came up that, okay, what is the ROI? And the ROI was being considered ki kitne log kam karoge, like how many people you will reduce. So that is a typical situation that we used to have, but certainly we came up and the management and the leadership team accepted it, that and based on the efficiency that we will be increasing, the visible cost returns as far as per unit is concerned might not be visible at this point of time or cannot be ascertained at this point of time, but certainly as the efficiency increases, even the transporters or the service providers which are getting associated with us in this field will come up and will certainly reduce their costs, because they are now able to work more efficiently. So their asset utilization has increased. So as their asset utilization increases, their profitability increases. Certainly we will be getting a part of that benefits in return. So certainly these things are happening, and we would look for more standardization, because as a big organization, as a big company, we can afford to have customization done. But for warehousing industry, because warehousing is not as big for all the requirements, there are only a few institutional and big warehousing companies which can absorb customization. But if standardization is not there, yes, the technology absorption by the industry will not be as much. Besides this, I would like to speak to the question that you have put across, is how and what technologies can be taken up as far as the bulk handling or the bagged consignments are concerned. We are looking ahead to bulk bag handling systems, where these smaller bags can be eliminated and the transportation can take place in the bulk bags, which is happening in some cases, whether it is alumina or some other chemicals. But it can take a big role if the standardized equipments for bagging and unbagging of such bulk bags are developed and are provided to the users. Certainly, that mode of transportation and that mode of handling of bulk will take prominence. Besides that, in our country, the palletization of bulk cargo or the bagged cargo is way behind. Like if we talk of West or the Europe, the cement bags are all palletized and then wrapped onto with the cling wrapping, and after that they are being handled by pallet or the forklifts. But here in our case, it's all being handled manually, and labor inside our cement plants. We do have the mechanized loading system. The bags are packed absolutely without touch of hand, and they are being loaded onto trucks without touch of hand, because we can afford to install such equipments at this place, looking at the volume that we are handling. But as we reach the same company, when we reach to the warehouse, the volumes being handled are as less, that customized handling equipments being installed onto those warehouses is difficult. So even though we as an organized industry, or cement as an organized industry, I was listening to Rajiv Mehta earlier in the session from Ambuja. Even Ambuja is having their material handling done by those laborers on their hands, on their heads. They carry cement bags. So that can change only if such industry changes or the standardization changes are taking place, whether at the industry level or the Ministry of Logistics level, that no, you have to transport in the palletized manner. Then all the competitors or the entire industry changes oneself from the normal handling that we are doing right now, to the palletized handling that is desirable or that is required, as Pramodji was talking about the sustainability and the safety aspects. So that can certainly be taken up if this palletization can take place. Besides this, yes, a lot of pneumatic handling equipments and pneumatic handling of material can happen, which we are still not utilizing. Again, standardized equipments, availability of such standardized equipments is a reason why it is not being absorbed by the industry or the warehousing industry. The main reason is that there are big industries which are using these technologies because their requirements are large and they can invest into capex and customization. But wherever customization is not possible, the absorption level is down. So that is something where we all are looking ahead, that the standardization of these equipments and standardization as far as the policies are concerned, as the at the logistics ministry itself, those things will certainly bring in a big change, and all these aspects of mechanization and automation will certainly take prominence. This is how I put it across.
Thank you, Pradeep ji. I think you covered, a very important subject on, standardization, and actually one of the questions which was actually addressed to a logistics company, which I'm going to take, is, what role can the logistics service provider play in standardization. So, there, like I mentioned earlier, the logistics service provider is actually in between the manufacturer and the ultimate user, right? And so in fact, we have been requesting many, because for companies like us who are, we work across different industry. We are multi-user service providers, right? So we have the same warehouse, maybe serving automotive, maybe serving FMCG, maybe serving pharma, and so many other industry, could be, white goods and so on. But the challenge is there, right? Like you said very correctly, Pradeepji, there's palletization. Now, if you look at pallets in India, typically, you have 3 normal pallet standards available, but we also have different sizes beyond those 3. You may have a Euro pallet 800 by 1200. You may have a standard pallet or American pallet 1000 by 1200. And then we have our own Indian pallet, which is 1200 by 1200. But we also find situation where, somebody will build a third or fourth type of pallet. He wants it 2 meters by, let's say, 1.5 meter. Now, what happens? He said, when you ask him, is my cargo going to be palletized? Yes, it's palletized. When you receive the pallet, it cannot fit on any standard racking system. So what are you doing? You're palletizing the product, and then you're putting it in a ground storage level. And then you will say, I will have my stacking norm. I cannot go more than 1+1. So we have, the purpose of palletization is to improve, handling, reduce the turnaround time, reduce damages, and transport it more efficiently in a cost-effective manner. But this, I think, all industry leaders need to come together, irrespective of, let's say, automotive or FMCG or and arrive at certain standards where it can serve. Now, see, ultimately, you're palletizing, and the goods have to be transported, right? So the issue is also around the transport companies, because the width of the vehicle is not ideally designed for palletized cargo. That is the biggest challenge, right? Because if you are exporting it, yes, you will have, let's say, a 20 or 40-foot container, and you can put, 2 standard pallets side by side, and then you may go 1 high or 2 high or whatever it is. But in India, the body of the truck is non-standard. So they are worried, I cannot put two standard pallets side by side. So they will say, we will not palletize, or we will have an odd size pallet, which will take, better utilization of the space. So every stakeholder of this industry needs to be part of this discussion, whether it is, the actual manufacturer, whether it's the, the trucking companies, whether it's the service provider, and even automation. Because if I tell Ashwin, okay, you do one dock leveler, or you give me a MHE, which is he's first going to ask me, what size of pallet you're going to use. Okay, if you are going to use a very narrow aisle turret picker, then you need to have, this is the standard pallet which we can handle in, let's say, 1.8 meter aisle. But I don't know what kind of cargo I'm going to get. If I get a pallet which is 1500, I cannot even put it on my racks because it's completely non-standard. So it's very important to have these conversations, and I'm glad to say that we are having the conversations. And my colleague, Mr. Vishwanath, who spoke in the earlier session today, and he is also leading from CII side the standardization discussion with the ministry, and he's played a valuable role in that. And we have worked together through CII on the standardization paper, etc. But we now have to, convert this. We have the data, we know the pain points, we have information, we have very experienced logistician and supply chain experts, but we all business leaders need to come together and commit to it, right? So if we are going to do palletization in standard, then yes, maybe the automotive manufacturer need to have a standard, body of the vehicle, which will allow standard pallets to be, transported efficiently and cost effectively. Similarly, whether whether we talk about a racking system, so if we have a standard pallet, so it solves a lot of problems, right? Even cartons, now if we say that, okay, I'm not using pallets, I'm using cartons. Okay, so there are certain, commodity wise international practices of standard size of cartons, right? So why can't we use those, right? So it may be 600 by 400 or whatever the case may be. And then the stacking norms of a carton on a pallet are defined. But if you have an altogether different carton, and then you say, I want to put 48, but you're only putting 32. So therefore, my cost has gone up for transportation or storage. So we all have to come together. right? That was the point I wanted to make, because when we talk about, productivity, all these things will result in better productivity as long as we are following the, the globally accepted standards, or, at least the nationally accepted standards for India, right? And all these things, when we talk about automation, machine learning, and more modern machinery and equipment to be deployed in modern warehouses, so all these will be successful if we are all aligned. Otherwise, it's a different form of gigo, where you have a machine, but you have a pallet which doesn't, cannot be, handled by that particular machine, and then that it becomes, a wasteful expenditure. So this is, what I wanted to add from my side, and I just wanted to now quickly, I think we can open it to the house for discussions and questions, and if there are any specific, questions we can address. Otherwise, I think it's a freewheeling discussion. Anybody would like to share their thoughts? So I think we have a question from one Mr. Rohan, which is, which type of forklift, diesel or electrical, is suitable for all three seasons? Particularly suitable for all three seasons, like in rainy season. Electric has its own limitations and not being able to operate in a wet area. So do we have an alternate solution to this? So Ashwin, you want to say something, or anybody would like to respond to that? What is the most suitable forklift for warehouse operation?
I'm sorry, I can't comment, because that's something which is not, by us, and I'm not aware about any such
So what I will respond basically from a user perspective, since we are operating warehouses across geographies. So typically, Mr. Rohan, we have a combination of forklift types. So what we do is, for internal operation inside the warehouse, we have electric warehouses, forklifts for inside the warehouse, so that they are non-polluting, right? But for external, when we are doing the unloading of vehicle, or unloading the vehicle and putting it onto the dock, for that we have diesel forklifts. So a combination of the two is what would be my advice, not either this or that, because electric vehicle, of course, even the rated handling capacity, if you have a 5-ton, let's say, electric vehicle, and then over the years, if the battery is getting weaker, then the optimized handling also goes down a little bit. And of course, the diesel, the challenge is that the polluting aspect. So of course, there are now mufflers, and you can reduce the discharge from the exhaust. So typically, to answer your question, we have a combination, and the diesel one operates outside the warehouse, and the electrical one operates inside the warehouse. So there's another question, I think, I don't know if it's also from Mr. Rohan. It's, how much block stock is permissible in a warehouse, maximum allowed in percentage of total capacity? So anybody would like to respond to that? How much block stock is permissible in a warehouse? So I think the question is, how much would be, what is the percentage of stock you would put on a racking system? How much would you put on shelves or mezzanine, and how much would be in block storage? So anybody would like to respond to that? So if you don't mind, I can try to respond to that. So typically, when we design a warehouse, we do at a 60-20-20, right? So we do 60% is generally racking, that is heavy duty selective pallet racking. 20% is, shelving, piece picking area, and 20% is what we leave for the block storage, because you do get some odd dimensional cargo, particularly as a service provider, because we are going to have cargo from different industry. And so when I say this is all the storage area, and I do not count the marshalling area, the staging area, and the dock area. So typically, if you have, let's say, if you look at 100%, we keep 20% towards the marshalling, staging, and all. So that leaves us about 80% of our floor plate, and out of the 80% of the floor plate, we will distribute it as 60-20-20. So I hope that answered that question, if that was from you, Rohan. Any other question? Anybody from the house or the panel? Or
Manu,
Sure.
I was also having one thing is that in today's term, particularly when government is also pushing a authorized economic operator concept.
AO, yes.
Yeah, AEO. So it is very important that when you become a higher tier, so tier 2 and tier 3, particularly AEO, authorized economic operator, then your supply chain partner has to be AEO.
Exactly. Exactly.
So
100%
which
right.
is also very important from a logistics service provider. I'm quite sure as a freight forwarder, they are much AEO or a custom broker, they are AEO, but warehouses also are available. And I think the warehouse of there is a need that they look into this AEO approvals. Maybe probably they will not have so much gains as a financially, but it is important. And when you are handling particularly exports or your clients are multinational, this AEO status for warehouse, I think people need to focus. Secondly, even everybody who is using that warehouse has got much more confidence level that your security systems, your record keeping, your all the systems are in right order. So I think this is one important point which should be looked into by customer, that his service provider is AEO, and as a warehouse as an additional feature to the customer.
Very, very, very valid point, sir. So I will tell you, because I personally handle this AU certification for our company.
Yeah.
So, fortunately or unfortunately, the AEO program is basically designed for exports from India currently in its current form, right? So when we approach, the licensing authority or the certification authority, actually, that you please give us a AEO certification of our warehouses, right? So they simply said that yours is not a CFS which is handling export cargo. So if you look at, the AEO certification which is currently being done in India for warehousing, the authorities are only certifying those warehouses which are, bonded warehouses which are handling export cargo. But if you are using your warehouse for domestic operation, right? So those are not coming in the current context of AEO in India. So right now, for example, wherever we are operating our CFSs and we are holding cargo for export, so we are, those warehouses are getting certified as AEO. And of course, as a freight forwarder, freight systems, our company is already an AEO certified in many other countries, including India, where we operate. So, so that is done. But I 100% agree with you, sir, that we have to have it right across the supply chain. It cannot be only, let's say export focused at this time, because import, there's a substantial amount of imports. And in terms of, cargo safety, security, processes, etc., it's very important to, have the entire supply chain conforming to AEO certification. Although we do have ISO certification and we do have TAPA certification and so on for, warehouses, which sort of, cover aspects of, transportation and maybe storage of assets and so on. But one certification end to end for an entire supply chain, AEO, I think, so hopefully, the authorities will take cognizance of that and allow domestic warehouses also to be AEO certified.
Yeah. So Manu, there is two things. One, as we are working and you are also working through FICCI and CIA with logistic secretary, I think this needs to be told to them, number one.
Sure.
Second is that, see, you cannot tomorrow differentiate, because if you are handling an e-commerce company, which is importing 90% things, and then you are delivering it to the domestics, then you need to be there. So another chance is that they are coming with AEO 2.0.
Right.
Because all these regulations, see, technically today in AEO, there is no e-commerce covered.
Right.
So AEO 2.0 will have these chances to represent. So I think this is the right time. And when we are taking standardization, this also aspect should be taken with Commerce Ministry as well as the customer authority.
Very important, sir. Very important. So I will actually, I've made a note. I will also, push it through the CIA channels. Yeah. And it's very, very important. And of course, there is also, within this logistics policy, they are coming with a rating system of warehousing, right? With A grade warehouse, and with that, and there will be an audit. So those kind of discussions are happening also. because unfortunately today, we do have Indian Warehouse Regulation Act, but that is particularly only for, food godowns and those kind of warehouses where you have a warehouse receipt, which is a negotiable instrument, right? So the other warehouses which are not coming under that category are not covered under IWRA. So the standardization aspect is again, it requires, to be broadened, right? And that's where the logistics policy is coming up with something on the warehousing standardization rating, and so that, people who require warehousing services, they can actually look at the rating and let's say the certification of that particular warehouse before choosing a partner. So that is something in the making. But as our panelists from the government side say, don't wait for the government to pass the regulation. You guys are industry leaders. You know what's best and you know what's needed. So you should go ahead. And again, that's again about a partnership within the ecosystem where the user, the service provider, and the end user can all align to make it happen. Yeah. So we have a few more questions, gentlemen. So this question is from Mr. Jai Prakash. Mr. Pramod, nice talk to you on AO for going to T3 AO certificate. All stakeholders in supply chain should have AO, correct? Thank you, Mr. Jai Prakash. And there's a question from Mr. Paritosh. How can 3PL companies arm themselves for upcoming challenges such as automation and AI? And in the near future, will robotics make MHEs obsolete? So, Rahul, is that up your street, or you want to share something on that? So I'll just repeat the question. The question is, how can 3PL companies arm themselves for upcoming challenges such as automation and AI? That's the first part. And the second part, in the near future, will robotics make MHEs obsolete? So who would like to?
I can go for the second one. The first one, I'll not roll over.
Fine. Go with the second one. No problem, Rahul.
The second one, again, the same thing, this constant story that artificial intelligence, automation, name it, whatever it may be, will actually revolutionize industries. Just please tell me which industry has been revolutionized by automation? Apart from the ones that you see on social media and the news that have portrayed that have been revolutionized, has actually anything been highly revolutionized apart from having a mobile app and some orders coming across? Robotics have not reached not even 30% of its strength, and AI not even reached 10% of its strength. So automation changing the energy sector or the energy industry, I believe from what I can observe in data is an overkill, and not just optimistic, but maybe a bit unrealistic also. So keeping automation as a reference, and the problem of this is media. Media has highly promoted that. Companies have also tried to integrate it, but if you do introspection and we look at data, there is no such qualitative improvement that we can actually say that yes, automation has completely changed the industry. It hasn't. Still time to go because automation is complex, and the energy sector even more. If you're talking about renewable energies, even further, because we depend upon geological factors other than human factors. So honestly, automation is not going to do any great shakes in the short term. It will take, at the very least, not less than 10 to 15 years for that. And we are talking about some improvement, not even a commensurate improvement. So this is my take on the second question. The first question, obviously, somebody with better expertise will be able to answer it.
So on the second part, I just want to add a few things here. I mean, we still have some time, as Rahul rightly put up, for robotics to actually come in and disrupt the whole thing. And as he rightly mentioned, that disruption is not going to be a real disruption. I mean, it's more for noise at this point of time more than anything else. And we as industry people also, we have yet to see a fleet of robots that we constantly hear in the media that that's completely come and remove people. I mean, it's just yet to happen, and we still see some time because as we as stakeholders we've been speaking about different aspects of warehouses, and this will demand a different set of rules for warehouses, and we still have some time for it. And we are yet to see it in the West also, that it's completely eliminated. Though they're talking about huge numbers like 1 million, 2 million, and 10 million robots. But I think we are yet to see that, honestly.
Yeah.
Thanks.
So also, yeah, thank you, Ashwin Rao. So my thoughts on whether robotics is going to make it obsolete, or AI and other automation is going to be a challenge for 3PL. So I think we will have to have a combination of, there will be certain processes which will be manual, and there will be certain processes which will be automated, and there may be some processes which you can deploy robots, right? So not for every process you can have the entire process automated. So what I've seen is, there may be certain companies who have deployed, let's say, an ASRS system, right? Now, a ASRS system, which runs on, maybe it has a combination of all these things. So it's for a specific product, right? Also a few standard products, because the customization of an ASRS system is extremely complex and very expensive. So let's say I was discussing with some of our friends from Hindustan Coca-Cola, where they have actually put up an ASRS system, because they have standard packs of their bottles, right? And they know how many bottles are going to go and what is the size. So it's pretty standard. It's not going to change, right? Or they maybe have 2 sizes of bottles, or maybe 3 sizes. But for the standard size of bottle, maybe the 500 ml bottle, they have put the ASRS system. But when it comes to a service provider who's going to have 25 or 30 different type of products, and within those products maybe 20, 30, maybe hundreds of SKUs, so the robotics and advanced form of automation is very complex, and it will not be sustainable. So you need maybe one section. Let's say if you're running only a e-commerce fulfillment center, where the type of products, because for those who are in this industry will understand that even within e-commerce there are different segments, right? So categories and subcategories. So the heavy products, let's say the washing machines and all, they don't come into your normal where you're going to have a sortation system. Those will go for standard pallet racking system, and there it may be certain amount of you use a forklift, or you may use a VNA machine or articulated forklift to retrieve and load the vehicle. But the sortation can happen in the small packages, right? So if you have something like somebody said less than 5 kilo, or maybe less than 10 kilo, where you have smaller envelopes where small items are, those, yes, you can do sortation and smaller cartons. So to answer that question, first, I don't think it's going to make MHEs obsolete. We are long away from there. And then the application, I would say that if there's a company making 2 or 3 or 4 standard products, they may deploy high level of automation and robotics and all these new things in their warehouse, because they have standard products. They know exactly the dimensions of their product and how it is to be handled. But when it comes to a general purpose warehouse that's managed by a 3PL, it's extremely difficult. And I don't think for a long time we are going to see let's say 100% automation in a multi-user facility where you are having multiple categories and subcategories. So that is my take on it, sir, and I hope we answered your question. So Mr. Jaiprakash says that one of the criteria for logistics vendor is that they should have an AEO. Right. So Jaiprakash, sir, would you like to unmute? I don't know if you can, but I'm not sure if you're talking about AEO certification for a domestic warehouse operator or domestic transport company, or it's basically for international freight forwarding. For international freight forwarding, yes, the AEO is mandatory for many companies, but I'm yet to come across a company for their domestic distribution where they require an AEO certification. So, maybe Jaiprakash, sir, we can discuss offline, because I don't think you're unmuted. There's a question from Mr. Pradeep Bari: how to calculate the warehouse efficiency? Ashwin, is that something up your street you'd like to?
Yeah, so I had spoken about, there are fairly simple KPIs that we spoke of, how quick we are receiving goods, how quick we are, filling it into the put away or storage, and what is our, time to order. I think these are fairly simple, matrices that you can look at, and there is enough stuff available. If you talk to any of the experts, they will give you. It can be fairly simplified, as simple as that. It can be brought down to per employee per man hour. It can be brought down to that level. In terms of space utilization, we can come down to per square feet, how my utilization has been. In terms of men, that are deployed there, you can actually bring it down to, as I said, per hour efficiency. So all of that put together, we can look at these numbers as a metric, and then arrive at the overall efficiency of a warehouse. But certainly we'll have to look at these matrices. I don't think there's one single metric that can give you, efficiency of a warehouse.
Sure. Pradeepji, you would like to say something on that efficiency or productivity of warehouse? Do you have any internal KPIs for your warehouses, or?
Certainly, that is a big issue for any warehousing, the internal efficiencies and the turnaround time, as far as the asset utilization or the space utilization is concerned. And going forward, the area utilization in terms of not only the area on the floor that is to be utilized, there is a big scope of the volume utilization of the warehousing, or not only considering the area of floor, but considering the volume of the warehouse, and then utilizing that volume will soon be a KPI. Instead of, so far, most of the warehousing KPIs we're talking of per square feet efficiencies, but going forward we need to go for an KPI of having per cubic meter of efficiency. So these things will certainly come up, and as far as automation is concerned, that will certainly play a big role in that. I fully agree with you on the fact that yes, this ASRS system cannot be applied by all the warehousing situations or all the warehousing requirements. It can be used for certain set of industries or certain set of warehouses, but for all other warehouses, the customized requirements or such standard modules of automation and mechanization needs to be developed, which can be used for other industries.
Thank you. I think Pramod wants to say something. Please, Pramod.
Yeah. See, efficiency of warehouse, if you look at from customer's angle, it will vary from time to time. See, I have decided that I will have some area of warehouse. I make a contract with warehouse service provider. It will be always on higher side of area, looking into my expansion plan, looking into availability. That time, my efficiency will be how fast he is bringing material, how fast he is binning the material, how fast he is dispatching the material. That turnaround time will be efficiency. As the period goes, then the area will started getting occupied, or as the expansion or business increases, then I will look into the space as a space utilization as a efficiency area. So it is based on the timelines and the progress. The efficiency parameters will keep on getting added into the requirements. This is what I just wanted to add into what Ashwin and Pradeep has mentioned.
Yeah. Thank you, Pramodji. So also, Mr. Pradeep, nowadays we have advanced warehouse management systems, and they will measure, the throughput of the cargo and the productivity. So there are different modules where you can, measure the utilization of the warehouse, the utilization of the machines, and the utilization of the manpower. So in the productivity sections, you can actually calibrate your warehouse management system. There are, advanced warehousing systems like, Infor and Manhattan, where these can be, well, they are defined, first of all, because you have to be able to measure something against a defined KPI. And then you will be able to know, whether you're operating 80% or 90% or 100%. So I hope that answers your question, Pradeep ji. And in case you have further queries, you can always reach out to us, and we will try.
Or maybe you can simply look at two parameters like financial numbers. What is my inventory carrying cost and what is my turnaround time? I mean, just look at the velocity and keep tracking velocity.
Yeah. So there are so many parameters. It depends actually the type of business that person is in. I mean,
true.
What is the commodity? What is it? For example, now we heard about tires. Tires, especially in the aftermarket, we have sometimes 3 to 4 times the volume is turned around in a month. So it's a huge, especially the feeder operations for warehouses which we run. So that's huge. And if you look at some of the e-commerce fulfillment centers, they are handling hundreds and thousands of pieces per day, right? So I think it has to be taken into the context, and then one can define what is ideal situation and then measure the efficiency against. Yeah.
And therefore,
so any other questions?
Initially I had said that, if we have these parameters or KPIs, and if we plot ourselves, where do we stand on these? And then understand, my journey. And then we can actually plan how we want to go ahead.
Sure. So, there is that standardization initiative is also happening again with the Ministry of Logistics, Department of Logistics. And there it is being actually worked on by specific industries, because let's say the parameters for cement may be different from FMCG, maybe different for mobile phone industry, maybe different for bulk product. So that industry will define the parameter for specific to that industry, right? And maybe it's quite different. Let's say automotive is different from, let's say, e-commerce, and e-commerce is different from cement or steel bulk handling. So a lot to be done, sir. And I think we all have to do our part in that effort. Yeah. So is there any other question from the group or from the house that we can take? Or any other closing remarks from any of the panelists? Rahul, would you like to say something in closing, or are you quite satisfied with the deliberations?
I think I have criticized the system well enough. I don't think I need to push it any farther. Sure.
Great. Okay, wonderful. So if there's nothing else, gentlemen, I would like to thank all the panelists for a wonderful discussion. And for making it so interesting. And I do hope the audience found some interesting takeaways. And I would like to thank all the audience members who are present till the very end to be with us. And I hope we sort of, the session was up to your expectations. I also take this opportunity on behalf of CII to thank all the panelists in all the sessions today. And since this is the last session, and of course, thank all the sponsors of this particular conference. So if there's anything else, John and Riaz, I can hand it over to you, the CII admin team. And if there is nothing further, then I guess we could, bid adieu to our friends and look forward to meeting everybody at the next conference. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Bye. Thank you.